Hi friends, and welcome back to Coffee with My Sunshine. If you're new here, I would love for you to subscribe and join my YouTube family. Today we will be working on 5 different DIYs. For this first one, I am using a scrap piece of wood, this family sign that I got from the Target dollar spot, 2 different color paints, no, actually 3 different color paints, some stencils, and these half wood beads. And I'm going to start by taking that scrap piece of wood and painting it white because I wanted a really clean looking base to put the stencil on. And I just did one really good coat. And then after that is coated out, I'm going to set that aside and work on the family sign. And I think this was $3 from Target, but instead of painting it, I'm going to be like kind of staining it, but I'm using some coffee that has been cooled off with a little tiny bit of brown acrylic paint added to it and stirred in really good. And then I'm just coating out the family sign with a sock. You could use a paintbrush, but I kind of wanted more control, so that's why I was using the sock. And then for the edges, I am using a paintbrush because the edges are really rough. And when I tried to use the sock, it just kept getting stuck on the little rough pieces. And it's going to show up darker on the edges because, you know, it's the end grain of the wood. And this little brush that I'm using is actually one that came with the stencils that I got from the Target dollar spot. And I didn't want to use it for the stenciling, so I thought I would use it for just putting the faux stain on. And you can definitely use stain on this, but I didn't want the stinkiness because I couldn't really open the windows because we had guys here installing new windows. So after I was done with the family sign, I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to take the stencil and place it where I want it. I could use the brush, but I don't like using brushes with stencils because I find it gets underneath the paint gets underneath the stencils a lot easier and makes it look really messy. So I like using these little sponge brushes. I couldn't find my big one. That's what I would have used, but I'm using this little one. And I'm going to show you a couple different ways that I stenciled, and just so you can kind of see how they turned out and which way you would prefer doing it if you do this project. So I used that little sponge brush, and now I'm using one of those big ones that you can get from the dollar store, and just kept dabbing it in the black paint. And that's what this looked like. To me, that's a little bit messy looking, but once all the stencils are on, you don't really notice each individual one. But this next little stencil thing that I did, I used that same foam brush, but I used it drier. And then I took a different kind of sponge. I didn't wet it, I just dabbed it in the paint and kind of dabbed the paint off of the sponge and did it kind of like a dry brushing, but dry sponging. And I think that came out a lot cleaner than the first one. So if you want it to come out clean, then just use a dry brush and kind of dab off the paint before you apply it to the stencil. Then I took that same sponge and I wet it first just to see what it would do. And to me, that was probably the sloppiest because the water let it get under the stencil. So I just went ahead and did the rest of it with the drier sponge, and then any spots that I accidentally touched the black to, I just used some white paint and painted over it. Now for the family sign, after it had dried, it was a little bit lighter than I wanted, so I actually added a little bit of orange paint to the brown coffee paint mixture, and I was really happy with how it turned out. So after both had dried, I just went ahead and kind of centered it where I wanted it to be. And then I'm taking those little half round beads, and I'm just going to use that sock that I used to apply the color to the family sign. And I'm just going to lay them out and then paint on the faux stain onto the beads. So let me know if you're new here or returning what kind of videos you would like to see. I know I ask a lot in my videos just because I want to come up with new content that you guys are interested in seeing. So after those little balls had dried, now don't stain the back of them because it's easier for them to adhere if they don't have, if they're not wet or stained. So I just took some wood glue and some hot glue. That way the hot glue would hold it in place while the wood glue dried. And I just went around and did all 4 of them. I thought it would be cute if you went all the way across and up each sides with the beads, but I didn't have enough, so I just went ahead and did this. And these wood beads are from craftparts.com. I will link them in my description box if you would like to check them out. So for the family sign, I just attached it the same way with a little bit of wood glue and hot glue. So let me know what you guys have been up to, if you've done any new projects. For this next one, I'm using this vase that I got from Goodwill and this flat spray paint in black. But first I wanted to take some alcohol and get all the fingerprints and oils off the vase. And I'm sorry for the lighting and the angle, but I was out in my garage trying to coat this out. And I do suggest that you wait until it dries a little bit more, because if you can see my fingerprints all over it, and do it in a well-lit area, because I saw some drips on there that I would have seen if it were brighter in my garage. So I'm taking some of this green paint, and I thought this was a really cool technique that I saw on, I can't remember what store had these kind of vases, but I thought it was cool because it looked like the paint was dripping down, but actually dripping up once you flip the vase up. So I just went ahead and kind of poured on the paint, and I'm using the hairdryer just to get it to move down the vase a little bit so it kind of knew what direction to go in. And then I just kept adding paint where I wanted the drip marks to be. And the hairdryer also helps to dry it a little bit, so that it doesn't drip all the way to the top of the vase. And then I just used a little tool to guide the paint where I wanted it to go. And this is so fun. You can just play around with it and make it your own. I'll probably do a couple more of these in different colors because, I don't know, it was just super fun. And if you're here for the Trash Treasure invite, stay tuned because it's coming up shortly. I will give you all the information so that you know when to put your videos up on the playlist. So after the vase had dried, I had put it on just a piece of foam board to let it dry. I put it upside down until I was happy with where the drips were, and then I flipped it right back up to dry. That way it didn't drip any more, like any further down. And here's what it looks like all finished. I'm really happy with it. I think it's kind of fun. For this next one, you will need some twine, or this is natural polished hemp, some faux leather, some of these grommets, and scissors. This was also a really fun project for me. I'd never done anything like it. And I got these grommets from, I think they were Hobby Lobby. And it comes with the little tool kit to apply them. And it was a lot simpler than I thought it would be. And it comes with the instructions on the back, which is perfect. And this is the plant that I'm going to be using. we're going to be making like a faux leather plant hanger. So you're going to take your fabric and cut out the size that you want. It depends on what size pot you're using. I'll kind of show you how mine looks because mine's a smaller pot. So I just went ahead and cut it and then kept cutting little strips until I was happy with the size of the square. And don't throw those little strips away because that's actually part of a DIY that I do at the end of the video. So this is kind of the size that I chose to do because I wanted the corners to come up pretty high on the pot. So I cut a little bit more off because I wanted a little bit smaller. And you could round the edges too. So I just flipped over the fabric, and you take one of the grommets and trace the circle, and all these instructions are on the back of the package. But it says to trace the circle around the grommet and then cut it out. And this is the easiest way I found to kind of cut a circle because I'm not very good with X-Acto, so I just use the X-Acto just to cut like a cross in the center and then, you know, cut the circle with scissors. And I found a smaller slanted pair of scissors, and I can't remember what they're used for. They were in my grandma's stash that she gave me, but it worked perfect for this. So if you're new here, I would love for you to pop into the comments and say hi and introduce yourself. And also, if you're returning, always come and say hi. You know, I love chit-chatting. So for the grommets, you're going to take the base and then set the bottom of the grommet on top of the base and then poke it through your fabric. And then, no, I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what these are called, but then you take the pointy piece, face it down, and then you put the little tool thing on top and then just hammer it until it kind of locks into place. And it's so simple, kind of fun too. And I'm sorry about the lighting here too. I was in my basement, so because it said you needed like a solid surface, like concrete, and it was too cold to go outside in the garage. So after I got all four corners done, I wanted to make sure that I liked it, which at this point it would have been too late to change. And then you are going to take your hemp. I was originally going to get rope, but I couldn't find the rope that I wanted. And my husband was with me, and he said, why don't you get that, the twine or the hemp and braid it so that it's the size that you want, and which I thought was brilliant. Sometimes I have to get out of my own head or have somebody with me and suggest new things because I don't know, I get set on one thing and then can't see beyond that, if that makes sense. So you're going to take, I used 3 pieces because I'm going to braid it, and they were 66 inches long, and I ended up cutting them in half, I believe, after they were 66. I don't know, but it all depends on how low you want yours to hang anyway, so my measurements don't really matter. But I'm taking the 3 pieces and I'm just going to braid them down, and you want to make sure, obviously, when you're braiding, that the tail end of the twine isn't getting tangled, which mine did. It took a little bit to get untangled, so you just want to untangle it as you're going along. And obviously you're going to need 4 of these. So when you're done with your first braid, you just tie off the end and do it kind of loose because you're going to have to undo these knots. And they're not all the same size. They should be, but I don't know, they didn't end up being the same size somehow, but just to make your life easier, you want them all the same length. And to hang them, you could attach the top of the rope to these wooden circles and then hang it, or wooden rings, and hang it from a hook from the ceiling. But I am just going to knot mine at the very top, all 4 pieces, and then just drape it over the hook in our ceiling. So I had to undo all the knots at the top so that I could just tie them as one big knot on the top. And this is kind of, it's not really a macrame, but it kind of reminds me of it. But if you guys want some really cool macrame projects, check out Nicole from The Week's Nest. She actually has a few videos on that channel, but she also has a channel that she'd started with a few videos of her macrame projects, which I think are awesome. So I have the 4 pieces hanging from the ceiling so that I could attach the leather piece evenly, or faux leather. So this is where you're going to have to undo the knots and then stick it through the grommets, and then tie the rope underneath the grommets on your fabric, and then just make sure all sides are even so that it hangs evenly. And then you just add your pot and kind of straighten it out so that you're happy with how it hangs, and go ahead and trim your twine. And then I think it is so cute. This is actually, after I get my craft room all together and organized and stuff, I'm going to hang this in my craft room. And I think it goes really well with the family sign too. I'm really liking this style of decor. Let me know what your favorite style of decor is. So before we go on to the other projects, I wanted to give you the information on my Using Trash to Create Treasure challenge. This is a challenge that I started quite a while ago. It's an open invite for any YouTuber that wants to join in. Eventually, I would like to figure out a way that my subscriber friends could join in and show us your projects, but this challenge is basically to keep things out of the landfill. That is the goal. So rule number 1 is use items that you would normally throw away in the trash or recycle bin and give it a second life. Whether it's a decor piece or something functional, anything, any cool ideas, just keep it out of the landfill. Rule number 2 is mention our channel names in your video, and that is Casey from Coffee with My Sunshine, and this month my co-host is Jamie from Simple Roots Simple Living. She has a awesome channel. She's actually joined in on this challenge a couple times. She's so sweet, and she's newer to YouTube, but I guarantee you will love it. She has tons of DIY inspiration, decor inspiration, so definitely check her out after you watch my video. I will have her channel listed in my description box. So rule number 3, link our channels and the playlist in your description box, and don't forget to mention the playlist in your video as well so people can continue watching and getting a bunch of different ideas on how to repurpose trash and recyclable items. Rule number 4, put the challenge name somewhere in your title. Doesn't have to be at the beginning, just so that when people search the challenge name that your video will pop up. And rule number 5, upload your video to the playlist on Sunday, January 31st at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and always have fun with your projects. So for this next one, you are going to need a wood round. I believe I got this from Hobby Lobby or Joann Fabrics. You will also need some paint or the faux stain that we used. I actually end up using that for this. Some wood beads, some rope or ribbon, wood glue, and hot glue. So we're starting off with that faux stain. I added a little bit more orange this time so that it was like a, I don't know, a little bit more orangey wood. And I'm just going to apply this with a paintbrush to the wood round. And I'm just doing the top and sides right now because I want to glue those wood beads on the bottom, and I want them to, you know, be able to adhere really well. And I probably shouldn't have added the paint or stain on the edges because I'm going to be adding some rope, and I don't know if the glue is going to hold, so if it doesn't, I'll just reapply it, but after it dries. So I just, after applying the stain, I just wiped it off, so I was happy with the color. So for the wood beads, I'm going to apply the glue the same way I did on the family sign, and that's wood glue and then hot glue. And these little wood rounds with the hole, or wood beads, are also from craftparts.com. Again, I'll have it linked in my description box. I'm not getting paid. They're just a really great company. So after those are nice and secure, just wipe off the glue that's like, I don't know, spewing out. And then go ahead and apply that stain all on the beads and the bottom of the little tray just to make it look finished. And most of these things that I'm making today are kind of with my craft room in mind because I'm redoing it and I kind of have like an idea in my head how I want the decor to look. So I'm adding this rope, and this is from burlapfabric.com. I will have them linked in the description box as well. They have some awesome ribbons and fabrics and anything you want to work with like that. And they have some great prices as well. So I just applied some hot glue and attached the rope that way. And I'm loving the sage green color. You guys gave me the idea to use it in my living room because I showed you a picture of our new couch and asked for some color ideas on this channel and also my home channel. And also, if you're not subscribed over there, go ahead and check it out. I will have it linked in the description box. I would love to have you join me over there as well. So I just cut off the excess and glued it on, and I think it's so cute. It's going to be perfect for like rings and stuff when I take them off, when I'm using like different glues and paints and stuff. And also to hold my candles. You know, I love my Antique Candle Company candles. I will have the link for that in my description box as well. I use those all the time. For this next one, this is where we're going to be using our faux leather strips that we were cutting off from one of the last projects. And I have quite a few of them. And then this wood bead, it's actually a curtain tie back that I made quite a while back. And I show you how I change it out for each season and holiday. So this time around I took the snowflake off, and I'm just going to attach this little leather fringe tassel. And I love using this as the curtain tie backs because I can change it whenever I want. And at first I thought I wanted to use this twine, but then I didn't like the look. So I'm just going to use one of the extra pieces of the fringe. And then I'm just going to hot glue it around to hold it together and kind of make it look like a tassel. And I just think it's a great way to use up scraps too. And that's it. I hope you like how it turned out, and I hope you had fun with all these projects. Again, if you're new here, stop into the comments and say hi. If you're from Jamie's channel, thank you so much for popping in. I would love to have you join my YouTube family as well. And again, don't forget about my Trash to Treasure challenge coming up. And thank you all so much for your love and support. You know, I appreciate all of you and love you. I hope you're staying safe and take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.